There we go. Should be live now.
Okay.
Can anybody hear us?
Bam.
Hey everyone, don't worry, you are still, we are here. And welcome to Flight Sim Weekly this week. How's everyone doing? Shattered still.
Got a few familiar faces in the chat. Alistair, Luke, Matt, Ryan, welcome back. Right, whenever you're ready, I guess we'll
have
start,
a huge
we've done our
delay.
faffing around before.
Oh no, there was something else that had to happen, of course.
Oh gosh, yeah, this is a thing you should fix. Well,
no, it's because I got my new headset.
You mean webcam?
Something like that. There we go. How's that now? So that should work? Maybe?
That's fine, yeah.
Right, when you're ready, Tom, roll the intro.
Okay, there's no like fancy stuff we're playing, it's just my voice to start, right?
Yeah.
Good,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
When you're ready? There you go.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for your typing to stop because I don't want that to be in it.
There we go.
Hello and welcome back to Flight Sim Weekly. Today is Sunday 18th of April 2021. Today we'll be speaking to iniBuilds from iniBuilds about the past, present and future. We've got information on the Microsoft Flight Simulator World Update to talk about, as well as a discussion about Next Level Racing's new hardware for Flight Simulator. We'll also be discussing briefly the VATSIM Cross the Pond slots system. Those of you who follow me might have already know my stance on that slightly. And we'll also be touching on the VATSIM Community Content Creator Partnership Program. I hope that's the right way of saying it. I always get that one messed up. But first of all, we are going to be speaking with iniBuilds from iniBuilds. So first of all, welcome and thank you very much for agreeing to come on.
No, thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Great. So, just before we get into questions, if you would like to ask a question and watching along live, if you head over to flightsimweekly.com/ask, you can ask a question. So to start, what is iniBuilds for someone who's never heard of iniBuilds, and what do you do?
So our slogan, as cringy as it may sound, is your destination for everything flight sim related, because we really do cover everything that one would want to enhance their flight sim. So we do liveries, we do GSX profiles and dynamic lighting for P3D. We do modifications of sceneries, we create sound packs, and we create aircraft. So we do a lot of things for pretty much all simulators at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't tie us down to a specific field. We do a bit of everything, I would say.
So how did you guys get started then? What was the first thing you guys got started with then? Because turns out we were discussing this before we went live, and turns out I was wrong.
Yeah, so iniBuilds was started by a group of friends a few years ago now, with the intention of creating really quality GSX profiles, and that's sort of where the name comes from. So lots of people call it iniBuilds or iniBuilds, but actually it came off the name of a gsx.ini file that you modify for a GSX profile. So it started off with the creation of GSX profiles and modifications, and also it sort of led on to dynamic lighting and liveries on a very small part-time basis. And that sort of developed into the team broadening. We saw the vision of the high quality service, and sort of broadened to lots of different things. And as we've progressed, I got involved and I took leadership of the team and the company, and you know, we grew it to where it is today. But it really started from a point of providing really good quality, excellent customer service in what we're doing. So whether that be a livery, whether that be a GSX profile, or whether that be an aircraft, as a consumer, you know what standard or quality you can expect from us, and sort of making sure that perhaps some of the issues that have existed in flight sim before about holding people to account really does exist. So I think that's one of the one of the principal parts of engaging with us from a consumer side, and how we got started, and what we like to do in our products.
Sure. So as you say, iniBuilds covers like multiple different sims, all sorts of different things for them just within P3D and FSX. You do the GSX profiles, dynamic lighting liveries, reflection profiles, scenery patches. So how do you manage the team, and I guess my question is, how big is your team now? Because it's impossible for everyone to do everything. How many people have you got at iniBuilds who help you produce all the content? Because a lot of new stuff is coming out all the time from you guys.
Yeah, so I am a very small fish in a very big pie, even though that's a really messed up metaphor. But there's a lot of solid
looking
people
for
that work
ponds,
in the
not
team.
pies.
Look in the pond, exactly. There are lots of solid team members, and everyone does their role. So we have part-time individuals who they're students, they're in university, and they really love painting, and we provide them a platform to be able to paint aircraft, and really provide the consumer something that never really existed before, a place where you can go and get any livery you want in the world painted. We've had requests from a Polish rock star to somebody who would want their dead cat painted on a livery to fly in the sim.
Jaffa cakes as well.
Jaffa cakes as well is something that really benefits the consumer and some of the the youth in flight sim. And
Definitely.
and I think we've seen really talented people in the industry as well that wanted a platform, and they sort of came on board. So we've now grown to a team of 30 individuals, some part-time, some full-time, that allow us to do what we do. And
you do your
think
distribution as well for other scenery developers and things like that, don't you?
Yeah, so in the past 6 to 9 months, we've established ourselves to be a prominent, I would say, explain provider, and consequently, some talented studios such as Origami Studios and Boundless Simulations we're really appreciative that they've come on board and they're retailing through us. And as a retailer with us, we like to do something very different and provide a very personal experience for the developer. So yeah, we're doing things slightly differently, and I think that's paying off.
So just before we get into talking about specific products, what has been your personal favorite product to be involved with? What has been your favorite thing to have actually been involved with from start to finish, or have you just joined the project? What has it been?
I think it was the A300. So to put a bit of background on the A300, a really good friend of ours now, and one of our key members, was a name called Roger, and Roger was developing the A300 independently on the Explain forums, and we sort of came aboard, had a few discussions, and it became, it's become one of the most famous products that we have in Explain, and part of our company and what people know us for. And I think that was one that really, I was a hardcore P3D sim at that point of view. So firstly, it was Explain. And secondly, it was an A300, and I was like, well, who the hell wants an A300? But I think learning more about the plane, the unique aspects.
When you learn about something, you sort of enjoy it more, don't you? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. I think that was one of the parts. But I think just how unique and intriguing the plane was really made me fall in love with the plane, and consequently the product, and what a great job the team did with it. So I think that's one of the big projects that we did where I really enjoyed and fell in love with it.
So is that partly the main reason why you do develop from Explain, from that A300 background, as it was already a product you had inherited?
The A300 isn't the only product we have. We have a few other products, but
no. But is that the reason the products are majority Explain so far? What we've seen.
Just because that's what you've seen doesn't mean that's not what exists. And I think we'll leave it there. But I think, we as I said, we have a very talented team that are able to create for numerous simulators. And albeit you've only seen Explain so far, that's not to say that you won't see anything else in the future. And I think that's the best way to put it.
Interesting. Okay, so you've got a lot of projects on the go at the moment. Possibly the most notable being the development of an A380. We've seen an A380 in development we've heard A380 be thrown around by lots of developers, and we've seen a few 3D model previews from different developers for a variety of different sims, of course, with Metal Simulations, Fly-by-Wire, and yourselves, and probably more that I can't care to remember at the moment. Firstly, how is the development for the A380 going? And secondly, do you think it's is it still something you plan to finish? And is it still looking like it's going to happen?
So let's put it this way. Your question is it alive? And for all the people in the chat, is it dead or is it not? So let's set the record straight on this. So I think I totally agree. I think a lot of people have suggested the idea of doing an A380. I think a lot of people have shown pictures. A lot of people have shown model pictures, and not much more to that beyond that extent. And I think there are numerous reasons for. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few reasons for this. I think number one, I think with any development team and anything that you see from flight sim developers, a model is a really, I say easy, it's not, but it's one of the initial steps that really, is much more achievable than I would say the other elements such as systems and flight modeling and other sorts. Our A380 is still in production and is still being made. To just clear it, I can, in the next development update, I can throw a bunch of pictures in that can make the whole community go crazy, get a bunch of clicks, get a bunch of articles, but that's not the point of what we're doing here. As people who remember from the A300, we only started teasing and releasing things when we were at a point where we were happy with the product. We knew that the light was at the end of the tunnel and release was imminent and soon. And we started teasing March, April. It was out by August. An A380 is an extremely complex plane, and there are certain things that need to be done to ensure that that fidelity has been met. And we won't be releasing a product if we think we can't reach that level of fidelity. At this current moment in time, it is still in our roadmap. It is still being made, albeit it's not the priority at the moment as we're creating other planes. But we have set, fortunately, unfortunately, however you may see it, we've set a standard with the A300 that we will always exceed. So the A310 will be a step above the A300 to a point where people will be really impressed. And any future planes we make beyond that will always be better than the previous one. So and we're such an agile team. To put it in perspective, the Beluga, for example, we started making that in January. The idea was told in December based on people in the Discord saying, just make a Beluga, right? It was released in March. So as a team, we're able to create things extremely quickly. So that's just something that people need to remember, that we're not perhaps other companies where we will just release something every 2 to 3 years. We have the resource and the capabilities to create things very quickly. Just because we can doesn't mean we should, because certain things need to reach a level of standard. But again, to put the record straight, the A380 is coming. The A380 will be present in X-Plane 11 and perhaps other places. And for now, that's all I need to say on that.
Perfect. I'm very surprised to hear that it took just 3 months as a flight, someone who's been around in this scene for a few years. 3 months for an entire aircraft. Like, PMDG take 3 times as long as that to do an update, but that's insane.
That's a whole other story.
To see the quality that we get from the A300, that is a massive surprise. I thought, I didn't realize that. I don't know, you've probably said that before, but I've missed it. That's insane. So
I think on that point, it's important to say I'm not here to shade anyone or shade any developer.
Yeah. Sorry, that's entirely me.
Oh no, but I think it is a testament to my team. They worked from January to March on a daily basis for hours on end.
Yeah.
And I think Delaney mentioned this last time as well. Developers, we put in a lot of time. My team aren't the sort of guys say, it's a weekend, so we can't do it. Anyone who knows our support in Discord, it's 24/7. If someone's online that knows the answer, they'll respond to you. And they worked on a daily basis, and we work pretty much daily. We don't have a structure where it's a weekend or it's an evening, so we won't. We're really flexible like that. And I think the other side of it, which I think I mentioned before, is in other interviews, is that we are flight simmers. We're not industry professionals. Some of the team are, but the main management, for example, myself, I'm a flight sim. I know what I would want from development and development teams, and I know what I haven't received in the past. So when I see consumers say, "Oh, I want this feature," I really take that and I push the team, like, look, we need to do this. And other team members are the same, because especially in the X-Plane scene, unfortunately, consumer feedback and holding developers to account isn't something that happens often. So
I think we discussed this last week, how there's a lot of products that sort of get made and then they sort of fade off into.
Yeah, and arguably, not to name names, I think that's pretty poor. As a consumer, there is an expectation that things need to be updated and improved, and that's what you're paying for. And I think that's what part of the service is, to think and for things to happen in a timely fashion accordingly. And that's something that you can expect with our iniBuilds, and we've demonstrated that with our quick updates when things have gone wrong, but also optional things. For example, in around a month's time, there'll be an update to the Beluga with a bunch of new cargo objects, simply because people in the Discord were like, we love this and we want to transport new cargo items. And I feel that's our responsibility to ensure those paying customers get what they want, if we can feasibly do it.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. We hear a lot from devs. It's kind of a divide. There's some developers who will release a product, there might be a hot fix a week later, and then it's gone forever pretty much. But yeah, glad to hear that you're going to be, I assume, continuing developing, particularly the A300. I
There's
assume all
little
your products
features as well.
For
There's
the
little
foreseeable
features.
future, if things need to change or can improve.
Yeah, I mean, what one example is, for example, the use of the experimental flight model and explain. The
Right.
Beluga and the A310 utilize this, and the A300 will be getting an update to that later. This month, there's development update coming out, which will list out a lot of the features coming to the 310, which will all be ported into the 300. So we're looking at around 4 or 5 A300 updates within a year of release that has transformed the product in so many ways. Which I think you don't really see in a lot of explain products.
Right.
And
Might be a bit too early. Sorry, go on, Alex.
So for those that don't know, what actually does the explain experimental flight model change? What does that actually improve about the sim?
So I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
I'm not a flight modeler either. So I'm not in a position to answer that question from a technical perspective. But it is something that is evidently different and evidently experimental, and will be something that I think will be used more and more often in future explain versions. And we've ensured that is being accommodated now rather than later, to ensure that should there be an update or a change where that becomes mandatory, our products are ready to be deployed for our customers.
Definitely, yeah.
Sure. On the A300 and Beluga, obviously Microsoft Flight Sim is here. Is there, I know your team are looking at developing in Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft-wise. Is there a possibility, or are there any plans that the A300 or Beluga could be looking at going into Flight Simulator?
So my position on this is we are looking and experimenting in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Ironically, in a Beluga update, Jorg, head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, put our Beluga and A300 in their Microsoft Flight Simulator weekly update, and we actually had to tell them to remove it. And from that, discussions flowed. It's one of his favorite aircraft. So I'm not going to say that it is happening. I'm not going to say it isn't happening.
Sure.
But I think with the sim evolving on a frequent basis, we need to ensure that our products are being inputted at the right time, if they will be inputted. And again, at this moment in time, it could happen, it couldn't happen. I don't have a concrete answer for you.
Okay, sure. I guess I'll kind of finish up the kind of MSFS sort of ball by saying, what's your sort of relationship with Microsoft, the Asobo team for Microsoft Flight Simulator? And we've asked this to other developers that have come on. How do you think the SDK, if you know anything about it, is for Microsoft Flight Simulator for you guys? Would it be sufficient, or do you think it could go a bit further?
So when we don't have direct contact with many people at Asobo,
Sure.
we know where to get answers from if we need to. To put it into perspective, what the SDK is, I think the whole question of the SDK is, if you don't know, if you need something written to explain to you how it works, and I think as a developer, if you rely on that, then how the SDK was perhaps written may be questionable, and therefore your interpretation of that means you're unable to do something. Our team doesn't rely on the documentation provided, and they work more independently, and we have some crazy guys in our systems area that are always finding unique ways of doing things. So I think from our side, it's less about what is provided from the SDK side. I think it's more about the ability to do certain things based on the fidelity of our product, and we're just gonna have to wait and see if things progress in a positive way or in a negative way, or if new things come to light that we ourselves haven't learned yet and need to learn. So we just got to find out.
Sure. Moving on to outlook for the future. We're getting a few questions. What is the kind of iniBuilds general consensus towards the future of your development, and will X-Plane 11 remain a simulator that you're going to support for the foreseeable future, or will you be looking at kind of doing all sims equally, or focusing on moving?
100%. I am an X-Plane fanboy. I used to love P3D, and I love X-Plane personally. So
it does convert you, doesn't it?
If the whole market shifts away from X-Plane, I'll be the last one there, and I'll be the last one saying I want that product in there because I want to fly it. So from my point of view, it will always be an X-Plane. But of course, if things adapt and our consumers that previously were on X-Plane shift elsewhere, and they would want our products to be moved, obviously, as I've said, we are exploring other ideas. But for now, we're full on X-Plane. So yeah, we're not moving anytime soon.
Do you think scenery products would also be something that is going to keep coming across both? It stays purely to X-Plane, or is that going to move towards MSFS potentially in the near future?
Yeah, so I think we're working on a few scenery projects for both X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. In terms of, I think there is still a huge market in X-Plane. I think with all the new True Earth sceneries coming, or already existing, some of the new Beijing scenery, Beijing city coming out. I think there are a lot of unique, really great sceneries coming out for X-Plane, and I think that will continue to happen as it is for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think right now there's a development craze for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and all these sceneries are being pumped out, and I think. I think that's because it's a lot easier to do that than it is to create aircraft, quite simply. And I think with time, both sims will see an equal amount of love. I just think the craze right now is with Microsoft because it's a shiny new thing that everybody wants to work on / fly.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to Delaney last week, and he was saying he was impressed with the tools that were in Microsoft Flight Simulator when compared to FSX and P3D, and he was saying that the X-Plane SDK, he really likes it, or the X-Plane, I don't know exactly how you call it, but the scenery editors and things helped him get started because they're so easy to use and
even
accessible
I could edit
for everyone
in MSFS scenery.
Yeah,
so just the nature.
Yeah, a lot of questions about aircraft. Yeah. Are you considering looking at expanding the iniBuilds fleet? People are asking if you're interested in developing Boeing aircraft or McDonnell Douglas aircraft, or pretty much every plane, A350, all sorts of things are being asked about. So
if it's a plane, it's been asked.
Yes. Are there any aircraft that are on your radar to develop?
So yeah, so we obviously have our A300, A310 family, which is announced, which has got multiple variants within it, and the A380. In addition to that, we have two new projects, one of which has been ongoing for a while, and the second, which is in discussions, and those are both airliners, and that's all I'm going to say. But I think yes, you can expect a lot of aircraft on a yearly basis from us coming up. Okay.
So when you say yearly, does the Beluga count as this year's aircraft?
I think that's going to be more than one.
I think.
What can you not say?
I think based on how things are going, we will see the A310 this year.
Okay, excellent. I guess the same sort of question scenery-wise. We've seen you moving into the scenery space. Are there any sceneries that you're looking at in the future?
Yeah, we are. We're working on a few things with a few people, and we've also got our Bouvet Airport in production at the moment. We've got a few other things that we've got going on, but nothing
Paris
nothing
Bouvet,
to
you know?
we've got nothing major coming out anytime
Okay.
soon.
Okay. Interesting.
How do you feel about, because one thing I found when I was preparing for this, admittedly very tired preparing, but preparing it, is that there's so much is done. And a lot of the focus has been on the aircraft in recent months, and has been on the scenery. Even just like PVD patches, like so many airports in V5, I wouldn't be able to use unless those patches exist.
Yeah, I think. No,
Sorry, go on. I was going to say, how does it feel being able to provide that to the flight sim community rather than just one product? Because and do you think that as these aircraft come along, I know it's a very long-winded question, I'm sorry, but as these aircraft come along, that the little things like those ini profiles will still continue?
I mean, so just so I understand your question, are you saying why do we create all those like those V5 modification files for all these weird?
Yeah,
small
sorry,
airports?
my train of thought. I'm still very tired. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. So no, I think for that, we to put it quite frankly, we don't, unless we get a particular request in from someone, we do it because our team either wants it, our developer for that is doing them because he wants to fly to the airport, or he sees a friend. We're really quite flexible. There isn't sort of a all right, we have a plan to do this one. We just, as and when the requests come in, we make them. So those V5 compatibility files are free. If somebody just sends us a message to make one, we'll make one and upload it. And we've got we've got feedback back saying, thank you so much for doing so, because this airport hasn't been updated. I really want to fly there, and without this file, we couldn't. So it's not something that is a sort of a big focus of ours. We just, if somebody wants one, message us, we'll make one. It's as simple as that, I guess.
And just for those who don't know, what is the best way to get in touch to get some of those things made?
So if you go on our website, at the top there'll be a contact us button, and we have a direct support or a forum, and you can just pop on there or both places, and that's the best way to get in contact with us.
I should say their direct support is 1 to 2 days, but they get reply often so much quicker than that.
Yeah, I mean,
installed instantly.
Yeah,
I mean, as I said, my colleague Sam, who's normally responsible for support overall, he, as soon as he gets something on his plate, he wants it off straight away. So we're never going to be sitting on something longer than we need to. Let's put it that way.
Sure. With the iniBuilds team expanding and growing further, is there a scope for people to join iniBuilds, not necessarily as full-time paid developers or whatever, but to offer their liveries or scenery patches or GSX profiles? Is that something that iniBuilds allows independent creators to come on and do? And if so, what's the process for doing that?
Yeah, we're really open to doing that, because I think a lot of the time it's exposure, right? So let's say you want a really cool livery and you're a really talented artist who's operating independently. By putting on AvSim right at the bottom, sometimes you don't get that exposure, and that's part of the reason we created iniBuilds, because we saw that there are so much talented individuals producing so much content, but it's not really reaching out to a large demographic of people. So we created the weekly recaps that used to be featured on FS Elite, that are now a direct message that you get every Sunday if you subscribe, that basically summarizes all the core releases from a few verified content creators and our own painting team. So if you're a content creator that has liveries, scenery modifications, or you would like to get into development and have some experience, we are very much open to having a discussion, providing training, for paid work. And if you are an independent artist, you just contact one of our team, and they'll go through a verification process and put you amongst our verified content creators, and your content will then be promoted to the people that subscribe to us.
I was just going to say,
recap.
I was just looking at this week's weekly recap, which came out just before. There's so many. Like, I did not realize how many liveries there are that come out a week.
Yeah, so on some, there's obviously less as we get busier, but that we and it's not as if anyone can just message us and they get accepted. We do have a verification process, and if we would be really happy to promote that content, we will. So there are some awesome paints for some talented guys. Atari liveries, Jetto Designs, Delta Who, Delaney. They're such talented individuals, and whatever we can do to promote that content, then we will. So yeah, if you're a content creator, just message us.
Sure, it's great to see such high numbers of stuff coming. Obviously, with it being quite a large number of things, it must be quite difficult to ensure that everything is, how do I say this politely, legitimate. I mean, it's good to hear there's the verification process. There have just been some questions around that in the past, but is that something you think that has been like eliminated for the future, or is that an ongoing thing? I hope you sort of see where I'm going. I hope this is not too...
No. Of course, it's a legitimate question, because obviously once we start extending out and once we grow our portfolio of painters, obviously there is an element of quality control and verification of the legitimacy of delivery, and that is a very important part, because obviously it does put our reputation in jeopardy, because albeit it comes from a third party, they're still coming on the iniBuilds website. So there have been instances where that has happened in the past on the odd occasion. And those are then dealt with accordingly. There is it sounds harsh, but there is a punishment process. And those people are reprimanded. So obviously there is a risk with expanding and providing a platform, in providing a place where people can put their content. There are always going to be individuals that don't play by the rules. And will do malicious things. And I think from a consumer's point of view, as long as you trust us to ensure that we will act accordingly if that is raised, then I think that's the best we can do. But I think you're right. It's a risk and reward process.
Absolutely, because you can't have it be so difficult to get your paints on the website that you have so few paints, and then consumers are having to look elsewhere. And the whole reason why you have this is to make it easier for people to find great liveries, and if it's too difficult, then the point is gone. But if it's too easy, it's
and I'll be honest and give you our statistics. Since January 2020, we've had one instance where this has happened, and this happened in the past week and a half. So
which is why it's on people's radar.
To put it on people's radar. So if you look at our liveries portfolio, there are more than 1,500 liveries, of which some, not all, were even transitioned onto the new forum, and it occurred with one livery. So to put it in context and in the scale of things, albeit it's a recent scenario, it's not something that happens often.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I think that's very fair.
Looking at the other side, considering you're talking about products being things being taken, we've been asked as well. We were discussing last week about DRM protecting products. Because obviously you guys transitioned from freeware into payware products. How sort of keeping the product safe, how does that sort of occur? Because we've heard very much different approaches used to DRM, anti-piracy in the flight sim community. What is iniBuilds' stance on this, really?
So for our aircraft, we obviously use Sarsel, which protects our product, and thankfully, we haven't had many cases of that sort of being shared around. And if you do share it around, we do find out, and we take the appropriate action. So from our side of things with aircraft, it's not too difficult, because there is such a good process in place. With scenery, as I think many scenery developers may tell you, it's much harder. It does happen quite often. It happens very quickly. And if somebody comes up with some intricate solution of trying to protect scenery, then they'll make a shit ton of money, to put it that way, because everybody's going to be using that. But at the moment there isn't, and that's just a reality of the things that we need to deal with.
Yeah, I guess the harder you are working to prevent piracy, the less time you're spending on development, and as much time as you spend trying to prevent piracy and stealing, I'm sure the combined effort of the dark side can is just
You
unfortunately
put that in such a doing the
it's
Star
like a
Wars
Star
tune now.
Wars, yeah. Yeah, it's a sad. It's sad that it's feels like a flight sim thing. But you know, you can only do your best. Sorry, did you have a comment?
No,
Otherwise,
no,
I'll
I was
move
just
on.
gonna say, I completely agree. And it's just a trade-off that we have to deal with.
Yeah, we have a question about how difficult it was to obtain technical data for the A300. Was it all independent research and going through the manuals, or was there contact with the airlines and manufacturers? And I guess we could expand that out to all your aircraft and how you get your technical data to ensure they're as accurate to life as possible.
Yeah. So obviously there are some things that I won't say publicly, obviously, because but I'll put it this way: we have some really awesome contacts who are really candid with us and allow us to really go beyond the documentation. And I think this was one of the big things that we had with the A300, where it was this hyped up X-Plane add-on, and certain technical individuals within the community opened up the FCOM and was like, right, let's compare. And to be quite frank and honest, the FCOM of the A300 and the A310 are really quite poor, because they're not a true replica of how the aircraft behaves. There have been so many instances where our technical consultants say that, well, that's what the FCOM is, and here's a video of how it works in reality.
Especially on these less electronic aircraft.
And do not corroborate. And I think if you look at these aircraft through the lens of a 320, you're going to find a lot of issues, because they're not 320s. Obviously, there is a balance between people providing good feedback where there are mistakes, because I'm not saying it's a perfect add-on, but I'm also saying that the way in which you've created these planes is really from a technical side, but also a pilot's perspective, and hence coming about with the branding of on the line, because there's not one aspect of the plane that's not been created without a pilot's input involved, because that's what we think, as well, me personally and a lot of my team think, is you're as a flight simmer, you're recreating what a pilot does on the day-to-day basis, and small things like the way it taxis, the way that sounds, the way that flies are important elements of that whole procedure. Yes, my FMS should work the way it should, but these small things do add up, creating a certain level of immersion.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of balance in flight sim that happens with the whole making sure the product is realistic and making sure the product is, I hate to use the term, but study level. Like
We
the
love that
manual.
term.
Everyone uses it, but in a way that a lot of people just say it has to be by the FCOM. And I really like that approach, I must say, of just making sure it's actually realistic.
Well, in reality, the point of study level, and not to again crap on any add-ons here, before the FS Labs was around, everyone thought Aerosoft was the best shit ever. Like, oh my God, Aerosoft A320, look at it, it's amazing. Then the FS Labs came, and then that became the shiny new thing everyone loved. But they didn't realize that a month ago, the Aerosoft A320 was the best plane ever. And it's whatever the newest best thing is becomes the thing that we all love and enjoy. And not to say that's a bad thing, but there are certain things within the FSLabs 320, just from a consumer's point of view, having spoken to pilots and documentation, which aren't accurate either. So I think it's really getting the right balance between, study level and, promoting that term study level, which will cater to a large demographic of people who think, right, I'm paying this because I know I'm getting the best thing ever, versus in reality, what are you getting? And that's why we really just avoid the term study level, because a level DCM arguably is not study level. So
marketing.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's why we just don't use that word.
Yeah. I mean, we were speaking to Katie Pilot a few weeks ago, who was saying it's definitely not a good idea to take the sim to the real world, but rather take the real world to the sim, if you know what I mean. So you can use the sim to practice for the real world, but in the real world, things are always going to be different, and it is impossible to have a perfect simulation. And to that extent, study level is sort of like just an idea.
Very good marketing
to
term.
actually reach.
I mean, it's never.
You can always improve your aircraft, right? There's always something you could do better. You could always make that slightly more responsive, or higher performance, or high resolution, or include that one extra system.
I mean, it's never going to be perfect. The sims in which we develop for aren't perfect themselves. They have their own issues. and it's our responsibility. And what our vision at iniBuilds is to create a really solid all-round add-on to really take you into that aircraft and make you feel like you're flying it. But of course, there are going to be instances in which the real life procedure can't be replicated, but we will do our best within reason to take it to that level. And that's why our scope of on the line, as with developments with the 310, people will see the definition of on the line will change, because there are going to be features that we've learned, we've developed, we found out, we've gained more information on, that will be introduced and part of that product range. So it's ever evolving, and I think having an open mind in flight sim development and always be willing to act on information that has been provided to you is really important.
Definitely, yeah.
Sure.
By the way, if you're just sorry, Tom.
No,
I was just going to say,
I'll save my question.
if you do have a question for eBay, please feel free to go to flightsimweekly.com/ask and ask it. We are taking questions during the live show. If you are watching on the podcast, maybe you'll find another thing that we're asking questions for. We're asking questions to Sam James from Airbus for the Win next week. But yeah, do feel free to go and ask your questions, and we will try to get as many of them to eBay as we can. Sorry, Tom, carry on.
Sure. No, so as you're improving and learning more techniques, and your developers are getting better at what they do and finding ways to do things better, as these are being rolled across all your products rather than just the new products, should existing users have any concerns about potentially V2s of products, or having to pay for updates or anything like that? Or is that, basically?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here. There is no any updates planned for this year, at least, aren't a V2. They're going to be part of the product, because I think until we get it to a certain level where the work that we've already done on one thing is literally just copy pasted across, then I will be frank and honest that there is no V2 required here. But obviously, with new developments in sims, and if significant things change, then obviously that has to be considered when we get there. But for now, in terms of the updates, or the new features people will see on the 310, they can expect all of the things in the Beluga 310 updated for free on the 300, for this year at least.
Sure. Maybe going back a bit to kind of iniBuilds as a whole, I just was thinking, you've changed from obviously freeware to a mixture of freeware and payware. What is the kind of iniBuilds ethos with kind of like profit making and that sort of thing? Obviously, there's no problem with making a profit, and that's absolutely fine. But iniBuilds is obviously previously entirely freeware. Are you kind of looking to be becoming?
I think that's a misconception, actually.
How so? Sorry.
Because people can request a lot of stuff even before the A300. I think eBay will probably be able to tell us a bit in a second.
Sure, but that does take them work, and you would potentially be paying people to make that stuff. So it's like commission. Sorry. Are you changing to a profit-making model rather than a not-for-profit model, essentially, if you understand what I mean?
So I think to clarify, I think before I was involved, it was purely freeware. So they were creating purely freeware modifications, and then we transitioned into like you said, as a student or as someone of youth or whatever age, but mainly for us it's been those who are younger. If you would like to make a side job in school or college or university, they got engaged with modifications of liveries, profiles and all of that, and that's one system. And then we also have another system for those who are full-time staff members at the company, and they get paid. But we've never been, I'm not sure what your question is in terms of profit, non-profit. We've never really shifted our model. It's always been the same, if that makes sense.
Sure. The hub of everything flight sim,
and just my opinion on it, I think the prices, particularly for the Beluga and A300 and stuff, are very reasonable. I was just interested on what the kind of don't know how to say this.
No, just be honest.
People, but just what the kind of thoughts of the company are, and what your kind of
I think
goals
a lot
are,
of
because
people.
from what I understand, you are flight simmers and you're kind of doing it for yourself as well as for others. You know, like you were saying with your team making the GSX profiles. You know, you're like, oh, I'm going to fly there. It'd be cool if I had a good GSX profile for that. But if that kind of applies to the A300, you know, you're like, oh, I wonder if I could have an A300. Like, so I'm going to develop one. But obviously, you can't develop an aircraft just for yourself. You know.
Well, of course, I think there needs to be a balance between creating something for yourself and doing things from a commercial perspective. But I think that my point with all of that is down to the root of it. A lot of us are flight simmers, so and I think once we create something that we would really want to fly, and if you have an idea of something that we want to do it, the burden, or I say the task of creating it, becomes a lot easier, because you're not just doing it for other people, you're doing it for yourself primarily. So for example, in our team, we have a very talented systems developer. He's got all these quirky features, modern things that you'd see, like a landing checklist and all these other things that he's implemented into his development version of the 300. That's not in the A300 that customers have. But because he genuinely flies the plane and likes flight sim, he's integrated things that he would want on his. If you could take the A300 and improve it and jazz it up to make it some modern Airbus airliner. So from that perspective, my point with that being is, yes, we have to think about things commercially and what would make sense if we were to sell it. But I think there is an element to which all the work we carry out, whether that be liveries, modifications, or aircraft development, that if we wouldn't be happy with it as a consumer, then we wouldn't be making or releasing it.
Sure. So
speaking of,
you're driven by yourself rather than purely.
Oh, for sure,
basically.
for sure. I mean, to put it into context again, the Beluga, that was my passion project initially, to say that, right, 10 people have said it in the Discord, let's make a Beluga. Obviously, you know, and there were a lot of naysayers within our own development team, in other areas, and our beta team. If you're in our working group, you know this for sure. There were a few disagreements on is a Beluga a commercially viable project. I mean, consumers might be thinking, why the hell would you make a Beluga? It only flies to 6 places. What's going on? But in reality, you have to step back from that, and you have to think about, if that doesn't work out, would we still be pleased with it? And I think the day before release, we all sat down and said, if this doesn't sell, would we be happy? And we would, because we were really proud of the piece of work we created. The selling and seeing the positive reception is a bonus.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you've got to cover your costs, right? So there's no getting around that. Yeah.
Right, here's something. So the A300, a lot of people have asked questions about future updates coming on. One thing that intrigued me is a lot of airlines obviously use the A300 for cargo, and then are starting to re-equip the aircraft's avionics. Do you think there might ever be a time where I'm looking specifically at the UPS, they have the Primus Epic cockpit. Do you think stuff like that might be something that you guys may eventually look to implement?
Yes, I mean, with the modern cockpit of the 300, as and when data becomes available, of course, it's something that we will look to be doing. But obviously, it's a new modification. Data is limited, so it's not something we're looking at the moment. But of course, if more data becomes available and we have the ability to do things, then we certainly will.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
Yeah. I think that pretty much covers all bases of what I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much for answering your questions and being so open about things. It's good to have a
we were talking
completely
about this before,
transparent
about developers being open. There was a few sneak peeks as well there, wasn't there?
Yeah. So I really appreciate your transparency.
No, I completely agree, and I think it's really important for consumers as well, because we're not this elite cryptic bunch of individuals behind a wall that we're not interested in knowing what you wanted to. What you want to know, we're open. My DMs are open. Any of the teams are open. Support's open. If you ever have a question, if you have a concern, a complaint, a feedback point, a gripe, you know where we are. Just message us, and we're really open in discussing that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on again, and thanks very much for your time.
I will just say just how open MJ is there. So when I was trying to sort out this interview, I might have got MJ slightly confused. Max. That is how open the iniBuilds team up, you can literally message a CEO, and I think that is something that is pretty amazing, especially considering there's in the flight sim community there's such a breadth from companies that will tell you nothing until it is done. We are proud. This is like Apple levels of secrecy, and we've got companies that are really willing to talk like this, and we know that a lot of people want to know about what's coming up. There's so much hype in this community because there is a lot of things that we want to see, and I just want to say so thank you for just answering. And yeah, sorry I confused you with Max once again.
No worries. No, I appreciate it, and thank you for your kind words, and thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it.
No, cheers. Thank you very much. All right, we move on now to the rest of the show.
What are we doing next? Quick bits.
Quick bits. Sorry, not manga. I'm thinking of like Manga High. That was like an
Oh my
online
goodness,
game thing.
Manga High.
Let's not talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Stay on topic. But Mango Studios, an X-Plane developer, have released their sound pack for the Flight Factor 767. I'll let Alex go through it because he's the X-Plane 11 expert in.
So I've never played the Flight Factor. But basically, they have released this sound pack. It's for €12.75. And what they've basically done is they've completely custom modeled the cockpit sound effects, the switches, the engines, basically bringing them up so it sounds very much realistic. I have thoughts, to be honest, about why add-on developers don't do this when they build planes. But equally, this is... I think I've not tried it myself, but it looks pretty interesting, and I'd be interested to try it in the future, you know?
Yeah. Looks
as well.
Looks good. Well, I should say sounds good.
I'll tell you what else we have had this week, which I do know because I was flying in it the other day. Fly-by-Wire have just updated the A320NX to the stable version 0.6.0. Now, for many, this is going to be quite interesting because this is the first stable release that is the fork. So when they came on a few weeks ago, they talked about the fork with us, and that was basically how it is no longer the based on the Asobo model. It is our own model, which is taken from the Asobo model, and they will now build on top of that. So that should prevent any future compatibility issues with the MSFS updates, world updates, like this week, in fact. And
yeah, we will be talking about that world update in just a moment. But our final thing on Quick Bits this week for MSFS fans out there is the Just Flight PA28. I've got to say the right PA28, the Arrow 3, PA28R Arrow 3, the one they released a few weeks ago, has had an update to include the PMS 50 GTN 750 GPS. So if you are a user of that fantastic aircraft, then make sure you go ahead and update from the Just Flight store to get your GPS.
And there's one more thing I forgot to put on Quick Bits.
Yes.
As you can tell, I will just say right now, the reason I am so tired is that on Friday into Saturday, I did a rather long stream.
Just 21
hours.
A few minutes.
21 hours, casual. I did not realise how painful it would be directing planes with no sleep. I
had warned you, Alex. 12 hours is hard enough. 21 hours is a hell of a long time to stream for. But all for a good cause.
But there you go. I'm going to throw this in the flight news. We raised £1,000 for Mind, a mental health charity.
Not Alex.
Well, I did. But no, as a community, we raised £1,000 for Mind. It's an absolutely amazing cause. It doesn't mean
thank you to any of Alex's viewers who contributed to the goal by donating or subbing or cheering bits during his stream.
I just
forget this. It was a very enjoyable event. X Ambience Pro releasing soon.
So this is an X-Plane thing, which is Tom won't. Tom is getting ready to fly X-Plane again. He is.
Yes, soon. But for now, I don't know enough about it.
So basically, for a long time in X-Plane, X Enviro has been seen as the ultimate make everything look nice. But this is X Ambience Pro. I'll be honest, it looks nicer than X-Enviro, and I'm currently using Xvision and Aska, so Active Sky. And that looks gorgeous. That's
Yes.
honestly... So we've had a few previews. It's on its way in the next few weeks. We don't know the prices yet. They did accidentally mention X-Plane 12.
They accidentally mentioned X-Plane 12.
So that is yet to be seen what's going to happen there.
Sorry, is this X-Plane 12 confirmed? Or
I believe they backtracked and they basically said that, it's not actually going to be X-Plane 12. We're not actually.
I hope that's just a typo, because you could make
but it was explicitly stated in their thing. But they've removed that reference now, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. That is it for quick beats. Quick beats. Yeah, okay. Quick beats are done. Moving on, we have still to come on Flight Sim Weekly the MSFS World Update and the ATR 42/72. We'll be talking about simming hardware, and we have more to come on the VATSIM cross-spawn slots and content creator community partnership program.
That's a long name, isn't it?
Well, I always forget what it's called. It's like community is definitely in there. Partnership program is at the end, and I want to say content creators on there, but I could be wrong about that. So
we'll talk about
I'm just
it
covering
more later.
all bases by saying everything.
It's been a very interesting week and a lot of debate about this program. So,
yeah, MSFS World Update.
I think MSFS is rather interesting because this is the first update I believe hasn't broken everything until it did.
Well, I did notice some people were having issues with your controls, I believe, which is a shared cockpit add-on that's going to be quite popular for MSFS. I must say it's fantastic that shared cockpit is coming back to Sims. It's not native to the simulator yet, but the add-on itself, I haven't tried it myself, but I've jealously watched on as a lot of my friends use it. It looks good.
We will try. Me and Tom are going to try and do a shared stream in the fly-by-wire at some point, which will be very much interesting.
Yeah. So that did break, but overall,
SSUIPC, I think it's anything module-based broke.
Yeah, but it was not the worst we've seen, and it's an improvement on the last.
So I have a little gripe with the way that World Update. So we were trying to do this on the charity stream, and I wanted to go and try France and explore the France update. I was going to go down the coast of France and just explore bits I'd seen in real life. And then I realised they don't really update the actual photogrammetry data. It's just the big cities with World Updates. But I think the thing is with World Updates, it's the way the fact that you have to download them, you have to make a conscious effort. And I don't necessarily think it's signposted the best on how to actually reach the world updates. So you have to go in the marketplace.
That's a bit weird, because why doesn't it just download as default? I know some people, one of the gripes I have with the sim is that you have to update in order to be able to use it, whereas with P3D, you can launch P3D, and then when you want to go grab the update, you can download it and then install it over the top, and happy days. But it's a bit weird that these things, if they're forcing an update, you may as well put the world update in there as well, because there'll be a lot of people flying around with not perfect scenery. So if you have forgotten, or if you've not updated your Microsoft Flight Sim in a while, there is an update. And if you head over to the
20 gigs,
yeah, and if you head update over to the store page and under the free section of the official content or whatever it's called, there is a world update there. Make sure you've got the UK one as well, and the USA and all the rest.
I definitely do find it interesting how MSFS is not orientated the same way that P3D and X-Plane is. It's very much more a game. Like, love it or hate it, it's a game. It was announced at E3.
Yes.
But there are things about
it is a flight simulator as well.
X-Plane is more user-orientated, I find. Even P3D. You'd find it easier.
Don't bash P3D.
You don't.
We'll be here for too long.
But like, the fact the sim is this thing they are advertising publicly is not actually being download it. I think it's very odd. But anyway,
Yeah.
the world update has been released.
Moving on.
Hang on, there is more though.
Sorry,
is more.
I was going to talk about the ATR. I've
Are you
got that on my
really
screen,
hyped for the
I'm really
ATR? You're
desperate.
really hyped for the ATR. I was just going to go through. I was going to just say there's 3 new handcrafted airports. You've got Rotterdam. Rotterdam's such a lovely place. I've been there in real life. It's really nice.
Really?
There's new landing challenges. They've updated Paris and Amsterdam. Basically, it's a standard world update, but it does look nice. It does look really nice.
Yes.
I believe one of the main things with. Hang on, I'm just going to put this on really quickly. Having been there in real life.
I think you could say that about anywhere in the Microsoft Flight Sim World Update
but
series. Like
that bridge in real life,
it just turns it from like looking nice, like default Microsoft Flight Sim where there's no photogrammetry. It looks nice,
it's nice,
and it turns it from looking nice into looking nice and actually looking like it does in the real world.
In real world, yeah. I believe like
2 different things, really.
Yeah, you can
it's
go
one
to
thing making
Tesco.
it pretty, and a second thing making it accurate. So
you can
it's
go to big Tesco in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't think any other sim can. Really
KFC near me is there in full glory as well.
One of my friends. I still have a great
drive-through. Yeah.
One of my friends' house is not modelled.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get this friend into Microsoft. We're trying to get this friend into flying in Flight Sim. So, if you want to model that house, Asobo, we're going to try and get Asobo on the podcast the next few. I will spoil that right now. But it's going to be happening. We are trying to make it happen.
Is going to be happening?
So we've got contact. We're making contact. We're just trying to sort it out for us. A very lovely team at Microsoft community, I must say. Betasom isn't there on the picture, but they said it will be updated soon. I think the thing is, even if it's not there, it's not been updated, it still looks really good.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm holding Tom back off too far.
Yeah, sorry. I just I'm like a horse with no reins. I just want to run. I'm great with
Go on, Tom. Tell us about the ATR.
Yes, so there is going to be an ATR 42 and ATR 72 coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know why I said simulator so weirdly there. But
you sound like that. Who's that guy who does the previews of MSFS content? Obsidian Ant.
Yeah, it's
honestly.
Sorry, it's being developed in partnership with Aerosoft and Asobo. So those of you following Aerosoft's CRJ can expect something similar to that sort of style in the ATR. There are some previews available on the Microsoft Flight Simulator news channels about it and on their socials. So do have a look. The model looks nice. No mention on release date or...
Well, they said 2022.
Oh, really? I'm
yeah.
2020
to 22 was what's been mentioned. It's not happening this year. I've got to say, that does look amazing.
But it is happening, which is good. And I think for Microsoft Flight Sim, being a kind of low and slow, well, obviously you can do airliner stuff in it as well, but being so perfect for low and slow flying, this is the perfect aircraft to match with this simulator. So do keep your eye out for
and it's also not just we're not just getting an 8. I think it's interesting because they're actually, from what I understand, they're actually trying to bring a study level air. Well, not. I keep saying study level. It's not study level. It's
don't say study level.
It's a higher fidelity aircraft to
nice term.
MSFS. But we see the CRJ is meant to be a higher fidelity aircraft, but it's kept back by the autopilot. Fly-by-wire discussed this with us a few weeks ago. The MSFS default autopilot is not very good. That's just the fact of it.
Unfortunately, yeah.
From what we understand, the default data, the AirAct data, is actually pretty good. The NavBlue data, this is real-world data that airlines get their stuff from. And it is good. The fact is that a lot of the issues are caused by poor quality data. Sorry, poor quality autopilot. having to be completely reworked on the A320. I think it'll be interesting to see. One thing I'd say personally that Asobo and Aerosoft need to work on is making sure that autopilot is much more realistic than it has been previously. If they want to try and call it more higher fidelity,
so. It'll be interesting to see if Asobo stick to default autopilot, or if they go kind of create something like what other add-on developers are doing, and kind of go use loopholes to kind of get around the restrictions that they've built into their own simulator.
Be interesting to see that.
Yeah, what their approach is to that. Yeah. So
I think as well, one thing that is quite interesting is they didn't do this for the UK World Update, but they're giving away a PC.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It looks so cool.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that, yeah.
I genuinely can't believe how cool that looks. I'm just going to throw that really quickly.
Like, for those of you listening on the podcast, it's essentially an engine turbine cut in half. I would be very disappointed if the turbine at the front doesn't spin and provide adamant cooling for the PC.
It's got a 3070 in it, so it needs it.
If you want to win a powerful ass PC, or just get your hands on a 3070, because they're like get them anyway. So if you want to get them, if you go to @XboxFR on Twitter, the Xbox French account, there is a tweet from April 13th, and you must, pour participer, retweet et follow XboxFR et commente avec #Microsoft Flight Simulator. I hope those instructions are very clear.
Tom, we do need to stay, we don't want to be kicked off,
No, sorry.
Did you do GCSE French out of interest?
Yes, I did. I got an A.
I got an A, and I'm not going to try.
Education in this country. Okay.
Anyway, so I'll tell you what else is coming. We forgot to mention this. This is the next world update is going to be the Nordic countries. So that's going to be Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Iceland. That's 5 countries getting an update. Going to see a custom Stockholm Arlanda, Vassar Airport, Svalbard, which I think will be very interesting. Bornholm. I think the nice thing is it's an airport you haven't traditionally heard of.
It's good to see them getting some attention.
I like the fact it is new things. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all we've got for Microsoft Flight Sim.
Yeah, two things that I don't want to spend ages on, but I think are important to cover. First of all is about simming hardware. A lot of you will know that simming hardware is something that's kind of varied. If you want to get into flight sim, the easiest way you can start is by picking up a joystick from pretty much anywhere, and it will massively upgrade your experience from keyboard and mouse. But Next Level Racing have released a full cockpit, like a racing style cockpit, but made for flight sim. That looks.
Look at that chair; it looks so comfy. It looks like more like
a garden chair.
Yeah, it's like a camping chair. That's what it reminded me of.
That has like mounts on it that can fit a variety of products. And Next Level Racing aren't new to the scene. They do racing cockpits mainly, so they will make sure that all the screw holes.
They've said it's compatible with flight electronics such as yoke, rudders, joysticks, and throttles for all major brands. That's Logitech, Cytec is Logitech. Anyway, Thrustmaster, and what is the other one?
Oh gosh, you put me
Honeycomb.
Yeah, Virtual Fly.
Honeycomb as well. High quality breathable fabric. It's going to be compatible with all racing electronics as well, so you can make a racing electronic. But then I thought this, and this is also because I've just bought a wheel for ETS2, admittedly.
Yeah. So it's £250. It's meant to be kind of the step up from just, clamping your hardware to your desk or having it sat on the desk taking up space all the time, a slightly more neater solution. I don't necessarily think for flight sim, it's slightly different to racing, where when you're racing in a simulator, you want to be in a firm kind of fixed seats where you can access your controls extremely.
There's a lot more
high
immersion
precision.
in a racing simulator, I think.
Whereas
You
for
like-
flight sim, I'm not sure this is necessarily something you need. Sitting in a wheelie chair, you could buy a chair that is still or whatever, but I don't think it massively adds to the experience having a fixed cockpit. Perhaps for things like DCS, this might be something that is more.
I was just
for that,
thinking.
but for what I do, I don't think it's necessarily.
So I was mainly thinking because it costs so much.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a TCA, which is about 70 quid, you have you have your throttle as well, which is about another 70 quid. You have your pedals, which is about £120. So that's about £250 already.
I mean, to be honest,
about
if you spent
over $300.
quid, if you spent 250 quid rather than spending it on a racing chair and God, I can't speak today.
We're both very tired. We're both ready for exams, aren't we?
And instead spend it on like a CPU or something. Like you could get a whatever AMD's crazy CPUs are doing these days for 250 quid, and that would
if you could find one.
Well, that would massively improve your performance. Unless you've already got one, in which case can't do that. But like,
but it costs as much as all the hardware just for the seat.
I mean, to be fair, they aren't the cheapest thing in the world to make, but it doesn't look massively attractive. So I think it's one for the hardcore DCS fans, maybe. But it is there. Next Level Racing is what you want to Google if you're interested. £250. Take a look. One more thing to cover this week.
So I think Tom, I've got a London session right after this, and Tom wants to go racing. So we're sorry we're rushing through, but we will get through.
To be honest, I don't want to spend more than about 5 minutes discussing this because what we're
Tom,
going.
How long is your video about this?
So we're going to be discussing very briefly VATSIM, Cross the Pond, the slot booking system, and the content creator partnership program, community partnership program. Sorry, I have to say all the words. I made a video on this on my YouTube channel. If you just search on YouTube for Ripley, you'll find me, RIPPLY.
I will put flightsimweekly.com/Ripley video.
Yeah,
we'll link to this for at least the next few weeks.
Yeah, so I made a video about my thoughts on the VATSIM Cross the Pond booking system. It's the full cut was just under 50 minutes, but I cut it to 33 minutes. It's basically me standing in a field saying why I think that the current slot booking system is not ideal. I don't want to go into all those issues now because otherwise we would literally be here until the sun goes down.
Watch the video, and to be honest, I agree with a lot of it. We were How late were we up to on Friday morning?
Yeah, well, I was up till like 4 discussing this with people, and I've spoken with a lot of other streamers and just users in my friendship group and in my Discord server. And if you've DM'd me, you've helped influence parts of the video. And thank you to the people who helped find some of the things that I used for that video. But essentially, I want to let you know I've given my thoughts on VATSIM Cross the Pond and the slot booking system. But Alex, if you have anything to add before I talk,
I think the key thing is CCP. You're never going to please everyone.
Yeah,
there's thousands who try and get a slot.
Sure,
I think it's I know Tom's made a video on this, and I think you should just go and watch that. Honestly.
Yeah,
we should try to save the video for after the podcast next week.
I just felt like with a little bit of extra effort from VATSIM, they could have improved the Cross the Pond experience. If you don't know what the whole thing is, then I'd advise you just to not look at the video and not get yourself involved in such petty drama because it's not worth your time.
And by the way, I just want to make a point here because this has been pointed out. I love VATSIM to bits. Tom loves VATSIM to bits.
Yes.
We want to see it. And I posted something yesterday in the Discord, and I got a response from Gunnar, who is the president of VATSIM.
CEO, but president.
They do care about what people say.
Yeah.
And honestly, Well, they may not be able to come on the podcast yet. We're trying to get them on. Do not worry, but we are.
Yeah, I mean, in the making of that video, I'm slightly fearful that if I criticize VATSIM too much, that they'll like ban me or something. I hope that wouldn't ever happen. But I genuinely, I'm not saying this just to prevent that from happening or whatever, but I just want people to know I'm always going to be open about this. I love VATSIM, otherwise I wouldn't use it, and I really like it. I just want it to be as good as possible.
It's one of those things you get so invested in, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it does most things right, but I just think there are some little things that could be changed and would massively improve the experience on the network. I mentioned on my Twitter the other day about having volume limiters on pilot clients, like how much of a difference I think that would make. And I I'm not a technical, I'm not an extremely technical person in terms of like audio and stuff. I don't know exactly how that could be implemented, but I don't imagine it would be the most difficult thing VATSIM have done, especially considering there's such talented team they have on the tech team with the development of AFV. I saw in their Discord server they're making this new events website, which looks absolutely stunning. So I just think they've got the resources. It would be great to see them put it, in places where I think it could make the biggest difference.
Definitely. Tell you what, something else that came out this week, and I do have thoughts on this. This is the VATSIM Community Partnership Program. Basically, VATSIM partners. So they have put a post up about this, and I need to remember where it is. There we go. So the VATSIM Partner Program is basically a way to support creators. They're building it, and you get exclusive roles, color, and channel in VATSIM Community Discord. You get a logo on the stream. And there is the controversial bit. Upcoming beta programs on VATSIM and guaranteed slots during CTP. Now, Tom's already talked about this.
Yeah.
But
I have one sentence to summarize the whole thing, which is, I think it is good that VATSIM is looking to support content creators, because I don't want to sit here and blow my own trumpet and say, oh, I do so much for VATSIM, because there's plenty of people who do more than me. But I think it's important that VATSIM has a public relationship with content creators, because we want to show the network in the best light. And I think it's a good idea to have a program like this. At the moment, it is not something I'm interested in, because I think the benefits of being in the program aren't necessarily that big of a deal. A lot of people are disappointed that the slots system, the priority is given to streamers.
A lot of people are concerned about slots. That's definitely it.
So a lot of people think that you should not give slots to people just because of they deserve it. And I would agree with that. I don't think anyone deserves a slot any more than anyone else. And I don't think streamers, just because they're streamers, should be given slots early. I do believe that there is benefit to the network as a whole by giving streamers slots early, because it allows other people to enjoy the event thoroughly when there's big, large, established content creators. We're talking much larger than myself and Alex, people who are always at the top of the category, hundreds, if not thousands of viewers on the day. Now, it may be unfair to give them personally a slot, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. We can't not give them a slot and allow people to watch them fly without a slot or whatever, because that's not the true cross-spawn experience. So in my eyes, I think it's important that we do it, and it's the larger content creators.
But then we get to the point, I will be honest, there's this is like a double-edged chalice. I can't speak. I think the program is good in principle, but I'm not particularly pleased. I wouldn't apply for this program largely because of this, FlightSim Weekly. I think there is a potential for it to affect that FlightSim Weekly editorially, and I don't want that to happen, because I really like FlightSim Weekly.
Like, specifically with FlightSim Weekly, I want to always be a kind of free entity, if you like. And I have a feeling that sometimes when you put your logo up and people see, oh, he's got a VATSIM logo, well, obviously he's being paid to say good things about VATSIM. Whereas I just want to be, obviously in this case, VATSIM aren't paying you, so you can just say, well, they don't pay you. But there's always going to be that impression that you're going to be kind of slightly biased, and I just rather people know that I'm acting and the things I say are genuine, and that's why. I've
got to be honest, I got told off by a partner for what I said about it.
Well, I'm not going to get involved in that.
Yeah.
I say externally from that, like working with brands. I don't work with a whole lot of brands, but I've spoken about it a couple times on stream. There are some things I will do and some things I will not do, and you would have to give me a hell of a lot of money to restrict what I can say about your products. Like,
So I find it interesting.
I do advertise things. I want it to be unbiased and my true opinion, and that's all I'll say on the matter.
I will say, for me, we have been trying to get in touch with VATSIM. We raised a few weeks ago on the podcast inclusivity as an issue. I have heard rumours, I have heard murmurs, but I have still yet to receive a response to my email. And I read about this direct lines of communication.
Yeah, that's.
And to be honest,
why isn't a direct line of communication to VATSIM given to all members? I know you can talk in the Discord and occasionally get a response or use ModMail, but there's no like, hi, could you like give us like? Obviously, they can't give detailed responses to everything, but we want to hear about some things. Like
I think 3 weeks without
wondering about what on earth is going on with the cross the pond slot system. Even if VATSIM just released like a 3 or 4 paragraph thing saying we use the system because this, that's that. We're not going to change it. That would just put the matter to rest. Whereas they're kind of like don't really say anything of substance. They just say we do this for traffic flow. They're really vague. Sorry, that was off topic from the thing, but it's just.
So, but I think 3 weeks without response is a pretty poor show. And VATSIM I am getting responses now. I feel like I got a response because I kicked off. And I don't think that's what should happen.
Has to respond to everyone because they're VATSIM users, and every VATSIM user should be equal. I don't think streamers should be treated with special respect in regards to getting contact from VATSIM. Like, if I want to know, like, about, if I have a difficult or more detailed question, anyone should be able to ask and get a response about that, basically.
But I equally think that there was a thing as well. One of the content creators does not actually meet the requirements for their own scheme. I
think that may be slightly poor, but I don't think all people with higher than 50 viewers should be on the program. And I think there are always going to be slight rooms for wiggle room. It's the same applies to the Twitch partner program and other partnership programs. Like, you're going to bend the rules slightly because they want to choose people who represent the network well, is what they say. But
but I think equally there are a lot of content. I think it's just a way because it was a limited launch, and I appreciate the fact that it was being done in secret. But from what I understood, VATSIM was doing consultation with content creators about this program. Now, I've only been a content creator for a year. Dare I say, I don't think I'm viewed particularly well in VATSIM's eyes, but I heard nothing about this program. Tom, did you hear anything about it?
Well, to be honest,
did anyone reach out?
I don't think I am a large enough content creator that they should be like. I'm not offended that I didn't hear about it. If that's what
but I think the thing is, and I think this is where we're going to disagree.
Yeah,
Twitch and Flight Sim, we're not that big a community. There are names, even if myself or yourself, me and you shouldn't be on that list. I think that there should have been a bit more of consultation about what this.
Even, like, certain VATSIM.net staff were didn't know it was happening, so they ended up giving out some inaccurate information about cross the pond slots specifically, and then people were a bit disappointed. Like, hey, you said that, and then there's just been this announcement. So possibly it was rushed, but obviously I'm not within VATSIM.
I think it would have gone down a lot better, especially amongst the content creator community, if it was actually spoken about a bit more than just this is happening. They have said this has been in the bog meetings for the last few months, but I feel there should have been a public discussion. And I know VATSIM is really trying to discuss things a lot more publicly, but a lot of this just smacks of just. All I will also say is positive attitude aligned with aviate, educate, communicate. There's very much catch-all clause.
And
I would
Sorry.
probably make a video about this at this point.
If you do want to know my personal full opinions on the VATSIM slot system, I covered pretty much everything.
But this isn't
video
the
on
slot
my
system, this is
channel.
partnership, really.
Yeah, sure. I did address my thoughts on that as well, sort of to an extent, but only for a second. But
I think,
or if you have a question, just DM me.
I have a slight issue with promoting within VATSIM. Because the Twitch community, these creators who are being promoted are already big creators, and I'm not saying. I think the creators that are being promoted are great people.
Yeah. Like, absolutely endorse good people. I think a lot of people have too big of an issue with this. I don't want, to create a monopoly of streamers where VATSIM basically is like the kind of be all and end all of like, yes, we choose who becomes big on the Flight Simulator Twitch page.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. But I don't want even slightly to move towards that. It should not be a significant advantage. I don't think it will be, to be honest, but we will see. Yeah, I to be honest, I don't want to say anything more about the program because I think it's too early to see where it's going.
We'll have to see how it goes.
This has literally only been around for a couple days, so we are yet to see the full extent of how it works, and I don't want to make any assumptions.
I think, you know what? I will say we will try and look back at this in a few weeks' time, perhaps, and see how it gets on, because it's getting on its feet. I feel differently on it. But equally, I've not really slept much since its launch. I do. Carl, who creates videos, who also streams on Twitch, even is saying that there's going to be a big backlash.
We'll see. We
will have to see.
I can't predict the future. I've given my take, and by all means disagree with me and have your own stance on it. But I don't want to have massive drama, because if there's one thing I've learned over the last 5 years, 6 years of being in this community, that drama is just not worth my time. So I'm gonna give my opinion and move on. So that's that.
I will just say before we wrap up, I'm sorry, Tom. I know you really want to go and watch the F1.
I know. I'm really watching it on the side, but I'm not getting distracted. I
should point out that because there was an incident a few months ago where I told a plane to keep moving at Gatwick, and therefore I am eligible for the VATSIM Community Partnership Program, because apparently that was a breach of A1.
You mean you're not eligible?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I really need to get back to sleep after this, to be honest. Talk about my sleeping person.
Good standing with VATSIM, but at the moment, like I said, I'm not interested. But
I do think, I really hope, for VATSIM's sake, there's no favoritism on this. There are people who deserve it, and the streamers who are in do deserve it. I watched one of them. I watched one of them for the first time as a result of the program, and I actually enjoyed the content.
Yeah,
I do think it's a very good start.
Great potential, let's say.
But I really hope that things that aren't necessarily seen, that doesn't affect content editorially. That's, I guess, the main thing. But yeah, I think that's all we've got time for this week.
Yeah. If you do have any questions or comments about anything we've said, do join the Discord.
Well, we'll happily discuss this.
We will happily discuss this, but
FlightSimWeekly.com/Discord.
Yeah, I'd probably say I don't really want to speak about this on future shows, but if you join my stream and ask me, I'll either say, yeah, we can talk about it, or DM me on Discord. Equally, Alex has his DMs open as well, so I'm sure we'll be happy to talk about it if you wish to. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to another episode of Flight Sim Weekly. I hope you're all staying safe, and we will see you next week, where we are talking to Sam, aka Airbus for the win. So see you then. Thank you very much for listening.
See you soon.
See you soon.